Okay, for number 4, we have a given function f of x is equal to the square root of 5 minus x, followed by the addition of 8. And the domain we had to be the set of values x less than or equal to 5. And we have this laid out in interval notation. And it says to find the inverse function and its domain. All right, so we have with the given function f of x, we have equal to the square root of 5 minus x, followed by the addition of 8. And again, f of x, this is a functional notation for what we otherwise say is going to be y. So here y is equal to the square root of 5 minus x, followed by the addition of 8. And looking for the inverse. Okay, so we're going to interchange the x and the y. And just taking what we have in the rewrite. So we have x is equal to the square root of 5 minus y, followed by the addition of 8. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to isolate y ultimately. So if I take 8 away from both sides, so we have that x minus 8 is equal to the square root of 5 minus y. And now we're going to free up the y expression from the radical. So we're going to square both sides. And we have, upon squaring, okay, so we have the square of x minus 8 is equal to 5 minus y. And getting the y term, which we have at the moment to be negative y, I'm going to take 5 away from both sides. And right now, I'm going to have the square of x minus 8 minus 5 is equal to negative y. And if I change the signs at both ends, whether it's through multiplying or dividing by negative 1, okay, what is positive becomes negative and vice versa. And so it's going to follow that we have that y is going to be equal to 5 minus the quantity of x minus 8 raised to the second. And this y is going to make reference to the inverse function. So you have the inverse function is equal to 5 minus the square of x minus 8. Okay, now in looking at comparing what we have for f of x equal to the square root of 5 minus x plus 8. Now so you have y equal to the inverse function of x. And that was equal to 5 minus the square of x plus 8. Okay, and make that 5 minus the square of x minus 8. Now I'll just mention, okay, so we had, so you have for the domain of this function, that was set of values of x less than 5. Okay, so we have like whenever x is 5, the corresponding y value is at 8. Say we have 4, 5 minus 4 is going to be 1, and we have 1 plus 8 is 9. And let's say if we have x at 1, 5 minus 1 is 4, square root of 4 is 2, plus 8 is going to be 10. And for what we have in this particular case, all right, so we have, so you have for y is equal to f of x, okay, is equal to square root of 5 minus x plus 8. You're going to have among your ordered pairs. So you have 5, 8, 49, 110. And I could actually continue if I had like let's say if I had like -4, I have like -4, 11. And now for the order pairs, the inverse, I would have 8, 5, 9, 4, 10, 1, 11, -4. Okay, and so for the domain of the inverse, you'll be looking at set of values of x greater than or equal to 8. So going from 8 inclusive on out to infinity. Okay, so just looking at what we have in this particular regard. Okay, so we have for this one case, you have 5 minus to the second. Okay, and we have for the domain, okay, so we have so we have going from 8 inclusive, and we have going out to infinity, and checking the result, and it is correct. All right, for number 5, okay, we have the given one-to-one function f defined below, whereupon we have f of x is equal to the cube of the quantity of x plus 7. And it says to find out what the inverse of that function is going to be. All right, so we have in this one, okay, if we look for the inverse, again, f of x, functional notation for what we say is going to be y. And here we have that y is equal to the cube of x plus 7. And if we interchange the x and the y and solve for y, where this newfound y is going to be the inverse function of f of x. Okay, so we have interchanging x and y. So we'll have in the rewrite, okay, we have that x is equal to the cube of the quantity of y plus 7. And going from y plus 7 to the third to just y plus 7, I'm going to take the cubic root of both sides. So we have the cubic root of x is equal to y plus 7. And if we isolate the y, so I'm going to take 7 away from both sides. So the cubic root of x minus 7 is equal to y. So you have y is equal to the cubic root of x minus 7. And that y, again, is going to reference the inverse function of f of x. So you have is equal to the cubic root of x minus 7. And so just taking what we have now. So you have the cubic root of x. And again, we don't want the -7 inside the radical. And checking the result. And that is also correct.